Welcome back to the channel, y'all. We're going to finish up this last hour and a half of the Andrew Tate interview with the PBD. And not going to hold you guys. Let's get into it.
Capita, how many guns we had in 1950 versus today. But it's relatively the same. Gun laws haven't changed dramatically from 1950 till today. What's changed from then to today? We took out God out of school. Prozac was invented in 1987. The law to legalize advertising drugs, big pharma, in America was 1985. It's only 2 countries in the world that can advertise, us and New Zealand.
Crazy.
So you got God, you got Prozac, you got big pharma advertising, you got the LGBTQ movement that's taking place. You got all of that taking place to where we are today. So when you're talking about guns, what has changed? It's not the guns that's changed. Society has changed. Standards have changed.
Completely.
So how do you fix that? So if that is the biggest problem you're selling, number one, here's the problem. Let me sell you why this is the problem. Okay, the people are like, you're right, I'm buying it. Give us a solution. What's the solution?
Yeah, I think the solution comes back down to family values, and that's a very difficult question to answer because it's across the entire spectrum, right? I do feel like it's almost a race to the bottom for men and women now in the modern society. I don't think women are being very good women. I don't think men are being very good men. And I think both of that is accelerating against each other, and it's a race to the bottom.
How do you fix that?
It's difficult. It's hard. And I still think one of the easiest ways to do that is God. I think if you bring back some degree of morality and some degree of standard to both sexes, I think
that's what the big thing is. During the last part, he was talking about honor, respect, family values, and all this other stuff. I think it really starts at home. I think a lot of that stuff has been lost throughout the culture of modern era today. So I want to say anywhere from the 1970s. Really started with the boomers. The 1970s really started with the boomers. I think we lost a lot of traditional values. Like, don't get me wrong, they were upheld and taught. But after that generation, I guess the millennials, it's really the millennials' fault. If we're going to keep it a buck. It's the millennials' fault. Like, that whole generation didn't really teach any values, disciplines, honor, respect, or any of that stuff. So
things will start to get better. I can tell you right now, they talk about why does men not want to get married anymore. Men don't want to get married anymore. They come up with all these elaborate reasons. The main reason men don't want to get married anymore is because their girlfriend was with me for free. So why are they going to marry her? That's the bottom line of it. Why would you? A white dress means virgin. Marry who? A girl from the club who your friends have been with? Do you want to marry her? Like, when you remove all of the morality from life, you just end up in a scenario where the only possible logical move is to act without morals. Game theory, right? We sit there and we analyze things logically. If you're going to be, if all the women you meet are immoral, how are you going to act? Well, you act morally, you get wrecked. So how do you act? Immorally. It's a race to the bottom. We have to fix society as a whole, and it comes down to even the most basic things like female promiscuity, the most basic things like men sticking up for their last name, the most basic things like men having to be too honorable and too proud to be out of shape or be poor or not take care of a woman. I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about men. Any woman who's with me, her life is fixed. That is my job. I'm Andrew Tate. I would be embarrassed to have a girl say, I'm Andrew Tate's girlfriend and have to work her job, unless she wanted to. She can do anything she wants. She's my chick. You can have any, you run the world now. You're with the top G. Anything you want is mine. I'll take care of you in every single way, but you must take care of me. I can take care of you financially and physically. You must protect me spiritually. You must do your job. It's a race to the bottom on both sides. And when you have 2 genders racing to the bottom and then a child is born, what do we expect from this child? Who's raising the child? The school, the TV, the internet? You trust these people? Look what they're injecting into them. So another thing that's very interesting, you talk about the 1950s, another thing that was different. In the 1950s, parents raised their kids. Who raises kids nowadays? School, internet, Twitch. How much time do you spend talking to your child compared to the programming they get from the Matrix? You're losing in terms of pure minutes. You're losing. You can't even control what your child sees in school anymore. You don't even know. And when you find out they do what they did in California, they're like, what? Most people don't even know this. You have children 15 years old, I've seen it on YouTube, arguing with their own parents, disagreeing with their own parents. The whole point of having children is to instill your values in them. I want my sons to be Emery Andrew Tate. They must think and act and be like me. And for someone, I've had people say to me, what if they're not? If they're not, they're not. That's fine. But the whole point of me having them was my lineage. That's the whole point of me suffering to raise them was my lineage. Why would I raise them to be anything other than what I believe I should be and they should be? That's the whole point of it, and I'm proud of that. I'm not going to sit and apologize for wanting my sons to be Tates. I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't care what the school wants them to believe. They believe what I want them to believe because they are mine. But all of that's gone. So then we also talk about what's different between the 1950s and today. These kids are being raised by people who aren't their parents, and whoever's raising them clearly ain't teaching them anything good. It's teaching them, if you feel act how you feel. You can't tell men that. It's dangerous. You can't tell men to act how they feel. You can't tell men to not have emotional control. You can't tell men to...
When men act how they feel, we get that situation in that food store where that Negro was about to... Well, no, where that Negro did punch on a black woman, and his life was ended for it. That's what happens when men think how they feel. You're erratic and you can't control yourself.
Cry anytime they want. Because men don't just cry sad, they cry angry. They cry very angry. You don't want that. You have to teach them stoicism. You have to teach them all of these things. And it's all gone.
So, okay, so let's stay on this. This is actually a very interesting topic we're in, from 1950s till today. So you're saying if somebody is a Tate, if somebody is my wife, if somebody is my son, you're going to be doing this. I'm not going to let a teacher X, Y, Z. Okay. Well, 90% of America doesn't have the money to be able to put them in a private school.
Correct.
Where right now is June. If you go on YouTube or Twitter and look at Pride Month, everywhere kids are coming to school. Parents, teachers got these pride stuff going on all over the place. Parents are like, look, I'd love to put them in a private school, but even some private schools are doing it right now. In Florida, there is a private school. It's known one of the best private schools out there. You know which one I'm talking about? I won't mention it. Starts with the letter P. People should know what it is, but they already know what I'm talking about. We have a party at our house, okay? And baseball. My son, so he's got a baseball. All the players are their parents. I'm talking to the parents. So, hey, meet one of the girls. So, what school do you go to? Oh, well, I was going to such and such school, but now I'm going to such and such school. Oh, really? Tell me why. The dad's like, yeah, it's just, reasons. He gets uncomfortable. Yeah. I said, no, really, tell me why. I'm curious. Well, I don't really want to get into it. I said, are you uncomfortable because it's political reasons? Well, yes. I said, well, let's just say you're safe to say it here. He says, am I fully safe? I said, what do I need to tell you for you to know you're fully safe? You're fully safe with us because you know my position. He says, fair. He says, we took him out because they started asking my daughter to do X, Y, Z with pride, to write on this, and she wrote a letter, a paper that was opposing the opinion, and she failed the class because her opinion didn't match whatever they were saying, and boom. Now, so I said, what's going on with that private school? That school's $50 grand a year per kid, the one that's grooming.
50 grand a year per kid.
There's an exodus from this school to go to other schools. So one, some parents don't have the option, Andrew, to say, you and I are not worried about it. I'm not worried about it, but the people I'm leading, they're worried about it.
Absolutely.
How do you fix it if you're that person without the resources you got?
And that's another thing that's difficult, because I have two answers to this question. I have the arrogant answer, and I have the answer that I believe is helpful.
I know the arrogant one. We'll give both of them.
I'll give both. The one I actually believe is helpful. This is where I think things like we discussed earlier, like the Klan comes into effect, right? Imagine you had 18 kids from 6 or 7 parents, groups of parents, and everyone's living together. The family unit, the energy and the ethos and the merits of that particular clan is going to be so much stronger and difficult for the matrix to penetrate and break. Their best friends are the people they live with. The kids live with the other kids who believe the same as them. The parents all agree. When you're a clan, you're far more difficult to attack and assault. So I would say the first thing I would do if I was a parent of normal income, I would try and find other parents who agree with me and try and find other people who are ideologically sound, and I'd make sure that our children are friends and they spend the most time with each other, and I would try for us all to go on holidays together, and I would also put in conscious effort to try and deprogram. I don't think many parents say to their kids, what did you learn today? I'd be doing that not to check on the kid. I'd be doing the check on the school.
But let me challenge you what's going on.
Sure.
So let's role play. Go ahead. Ask me the question.
What did you learn at school today?
So today we learned that, Dylan Mulvaney had the courage to stand up for her beliefs, and she's a hero because she's out there and she's helping a lot of other people that are going through challenges.
Dylan Mulvaney is a girl? I thought that was a guy.
Challenging times. Be able to stand up for themselves.
Okay.
What are you going to tell me?
I would say, why do you think they want you to believe that?
What do you mean that?
Why do you think they want you to believe that? They've told you something.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true. What they've done is lie to you. Why do they want you to believe that?
Perfect. So say you now convince me I'm your son. Yeah. Great. I go to school tomorrow. Yeah. Ready?
Correct.
Now I'm in school.
Correct.
Hey, Miss Jones says, hey, Patrick, so tell me, so what did you think about this as this, you have to write this paper? Well, let me tell you, last night I was having a conversation with my dad, and my dad told me, why do you want me to believe that? Then comes the phone call And then now you're cornered as a parent, and now what do you say to the school? Say I'm the school, role play.
Correct. And I can't role play it by myself. It's difficult. It's difficult. And this is the exact point why you need a clan, you need a network, you need other parents. If I was a parent and my child was going to public school, I'd be extremely interested in finding other parents whose kids were going to that public school. Yeah, you have the PTA meetings, etc., but there has to be a degree of strength in numbers. It's hard. You can say homeschooling, that's the cop-out. But the other answer, the more arrogant answer to this, is actually an answer I gave after the subway incident. You know in New York with the subway where they choked the guy and he died?
Yep.
I get asked all the time, Andrew, what would you have done in that scenario? It's a very difficult scenario. I mean, we can argue whether he choked him too long, whether he was trying to protect people, there's a bunch of arguments. But it's very unfortunate. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. You can no longer just be the average man, the average citizen. I insulate myself from so many problems with money. I know this is a terrible thing to say and people aren't gonna like hearing it, but it's true. I never have to worry about some garbage on the subway. I never have to worry about, do I stand up and defend this woman or allow her to get attacked because they're gonna put me in jail? I never have to worry about some fight on a plane because the ticket was $40. I never have to worry about my kid going and learn something they don't wanna learn. I don't have to worry about any of this because money protects me, right? So when I say this, like if I have a girl and she's saying, all you do is work, you need to be a dad too. I'm being a dad by being rich. That's me being a dad. That's how I protect you all. I'll work 18 hours a day every single day. That's me being a dad more than almost anything, because that's how I protect you and everybody else from all this insanity. It's the only way to do it, because you need to be flexible.
We're fully on the same page. I'm on the same page as you. I also went and made the money, so I get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is a message, because the reality is not everybody is going to go out there and make the
Correct.
10 a month or
Correct.
whatever you make. It's just not going to happen.
Correct.
The market's not set up that way.
Correct.
Quite frankly, not everybody brings that kind of value to the market.
Correct.
To garner that kind of pay. You know that, I know that.
Correct.
Okay, how can you and I help the audience that is sitting there, great citizens,
Yep.
net positive.
Yep.
They take their kids to church on Sundays.
Yep.
They work their butts out. They're doing their best to keep their marriage together as hard as it is.
Yep.
They're paying the bills for the kids. They're making 80 grand, 120 household income.
Yep.
They can't talk like you and I.
You're right.
What do they do?
You're right.
Let's give them the solution.
You're right. So if I was them, here's what I would do. I would make sure that my family had core parameters and core beliefs that we believed in, and I would fact check everything my child was told against those core parameters and core beliefs. So let's say one of our core parameters and core beliefs was hard work. We believed in hard work and dedication. When they came home and told me something about body shaming or the fact that models can change, I'd say, does that agree with the beliefs and the merits that this family has decided we're going to operate under? Yes or no? I would have a framework, I would have a gate which ideas have to penetrate through. Every idea has to be fact checked against a gate, a parameters of set values that was stuck to my last name. Honor, courage, discipline, hard work, whatever those parameters are. And I'd say to my child every day, what did you learn in school? I'd listen to it and I'd say, does that align with our value on this? And also, I'd make this very clear, because this was done to me as a child. I'd make it very clear to my children that they're exceptional. I think every single person is exceptional for different reasons. We talk about normal children, normal families, that doesn't mean they're not an exceptional individual. They can still be an exceptional person.
Totally.
Who knows what they might become.
Sure.
I'd say you're an exceptional. You don't believe what everyone else in that school is told to believe just because it is said. You're an exceptional person, and we have a framework we operate under because your last name is X, and our framework is this. Does that align with hard work and dedication? No, it doesn't. Why are they trying to tell you that? Because they're trying to attack the framework which you need to be successful. My father said to me when I was young, my father had many, many quotes, and I use them all the time, but one of my favorites was, I allow manipulation to find out where my enemy wants me to go. And then I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrators. That's the exact line I will tell my child. I'll say,
that is some cold ass shit. I allow manipulation to basically show me where my enemy wants me to go, and then I use my mind to break that manipulation. Hey, yo, Andrew's father was a cold, Emery Tate. I'm gonna have to do some research on him. That was cold.
attempted to manipulate you. We've allowed it. I allowed you to go to school and listen to this. Why were they trying to manipulate you? Where do they want you to go? They want to take you away from discipline. They want to take you away from hard work. Now we're going to use our minds to break the trap. We now know what they want. My father explained this saying to me, and he said why it was so important, and it's true. If you don't allow them to manipulate you at all, you don't know where they want you to end up. You might get tricked another way. You might take another road to the same destination. You allow the manipulation. Tell me what you want me to believe. Tell me what you want me to understand. Allow it to manipulate me all the way to the end. I see the end goal. This is what you want. No. And this is what I would teach my children. Explain. Your time in school is going to teach you some very important things that you need to know. And they're also attempting to psyop you and trick you and poison your mind. And we are going to discuss daily, built within our family framework, within the code of our last name, to see which are true and which are lies. It takes work, like everything else on earth. It takes work, and I know it's hard. Parents are out there, they're working, they haven't got time, their kids are on the internet. It's difficult, but you have to put the work in because you are almost fighting an enemy for the minds of your children now.
You know what I think? You know what I think is, that's great, very good feedback. But, so I lived in Iran, and in Iran, you'd go out there and you'd say, so hey, listen, people are asking about religion, don't talk about it. Are we Christians? I don't know. Talk to my mom and dad. You don't need to answer the question, right? Because there's that fear. So parents are teaching kids to not talk about their values and principles. The element that parents fear what the school's gonna say to them and not give the kids the best grades, because imagine you got a 10th grader or even a senior. If you really say what you believe in, that teacher gives you a C, you don't get the A to get the 4.3 GPA to get the scholarship because you can't afford it. You have to be like constantly like this. So parents are telling their kids, look, whatever I'm telling you, don't tell them. I think it's bigger than that. I think a part of it is, this is the first time we had stats, and I don't know how long this was, where kids no longer, kids graduating high school are not valuing a four-year college as much as they did before, okay? That is a threat to the establishment because they can't be a control, right? Number two is there is an element, when I'm watching this video with these parents yesterday in Glendale, and this is where I grew up. This is my street. I grew up Broadway and Verdugo, right next to that post office. I'm 200 yards away from the high school is where I grew up, and I lived on Doran for a couple of years before I went to Wilson Junior High School. And I'm seeing these parents upset, like, how is this? This is common sense. Leave these kids alone. I think there's got to be an element of those parents coming together and a form of a strike, I believe, to say, if you want the tax-funded money that's being given to your school district, hey, we're not coming. We're going to decide to do schooling together, and we're going to use this place or this facility and that facility, because they have to feel the pain. They cannot do that to the kids. So my only messaging with what you're saying right now, number one rule is what? Go start a part-time income, make an additional $3,000 a month so you can send them to the private school that they're teaching right values. Okay, that's number one. Two, I can't afford to do that. Three, this is the other option that you got.
And you're right, and Trump said it in his book, The Art of the Deal. He said, if you're not prepared to walk away, you can't negotiate. And that's the same with absolutely everything. If there's never a bottom line in which you say enough, then you can't negotiate. You have no negotiating position. We talk about this when it comes to children in schools, but this is also very applicable for relationships. I've had girls who say to me, you know what, I was watching TV and they were saying that, I don't know, X, Y, Z. And I would say, listen, I take care of you. I love you very much. I'm going to make sure you have everything you've ever wanted. I'm going to make sure you're physically safe. That's why you're not going to go walking home alone drunk. It's not because I'm a misogynist. It's not because I dislike you. It's not because I'm controlling. It's not because I'm manipulative. It's because it's for your safety, and your safety to a degree is my responsibility. But I saw on the news X, Y, Z. If you believe the news over me, then go find another man. You have to be prepared to walk away, right? This is the bottom line of it. This is what I personally believe. These are my values.
100% with you.
These are my values. And this is what I personally believe. If she says, well, no, I'm not listening to you, and I stay with her anyway, well, then it's over, isn't it? And then she's going to do whatever she wants.
But not everybody can do that because you've earned the right.
Of course.
The proposition you're offering is so high that they have to sit there and say, I can't lose this guy.
Completely. And this is where we go back to the original point about how difficult it is to be the average man now. It's becoming more and more difficult. We're in a position now where you have a racetrack and you have Ferraris and Nissans. And yeah, we can discuss how the Nissan might beat the Ferrari, but the truth is, it's hard. It's very, very hard. If I was a man and I was starting all over again, I would do the same things I did. I would wake up and say, okay, this game is extremely difficult. My best chance is to level up my character to a point where the game becomes easy. Because life does become easy at a certain point. Yes, now I'm in a very unique situation. But before this situation, I had only 3 problems in my life. My health, which I take care of, my woman, who I take care of, and money. That was it. If I made enough money, I had no other problems. If you're broke, you have lots of small problems. The car doesn't start, the school fees are coming up, whatever. We need new clothes for the kids. I had one problem to fix. If I fix my one issue, everything else is fixed. You get to a point in life where someone goes, oh, we've got an issue. How much? Tell me the number. I don't even want to know the ins and outs. Just do the transfer, make it go away. So Yeah, as a man, I think you have that imperative to understand that the video game of life as a man is exceptionally difficult, and especially as you get older, as you progress with the levels, it gets harder. It's getting harder and harder. You need to level up your character. This is what amazes me when men go, I struggle with motivation. How can you struggle with motivation in the modern world? Are you asking to just lose? Are you asking to just be erased from humanity?
Yep.
Are you asking to be invisible? How can you be an 18-year-old man and say, I don't have the motivation to train as hard as possible and get as rich as possible? You are born to lose if you don't have motivation at 18. In the modern world, as competitive as it is, all those girls, those 18-year-old girls you go to school with, are talking to some 28-year-old man with a yacht somehow. And you're sitting there lonely, and you don't have motivation? You must be out of your mind. The only way to win this game is to become as powerful as possible. It's difficult, and it's getting harder and harder, and this is why I teach the things I teach to men. You can't just be Joe Schmo and win anymore. Those days are over. You have to be something else.
The challenge those young men have, though, it's sometimes not even their fault. Why? Single mother, raised by a single mother. They've been indoctrinated, and they heard the future is female a million times. Next thing you know, they're 18. They kind of have this victim mentality. It's almost not even their fault some of these times.
Oh, completely.
We're all in our late 30s, early 40s. We've grown up. I played football in school. He's an athlete, bodybuilder. Obviously, you're a kickboxing champion. We've had coaches. We've had people kick our ass. We didn't grow up with participation trophies. We've had our asses kicked. We've gone through shit. Now we are the shit. A lot of these young guys playing video games, addicted to porn. They grow up with a phone in their hand, raised by women. They weren't raised how we were raised. How do you teach those kids, though?
Well, that's exactly what they don't want me doing. That's why they're trying to put me in jail. Because I managed to become, I'm not for a second bragging, but the size of the movement that I created, I turned up in Slovenia. I don't know if you've ever seen that video with the Bugatti where everyone's going, top G, top G. That's the capital of Slovenia. I can't even pronounce it. Ljubljana or something. I've never been there before. Slovenia, where even is it? Like, I can barely find it on a map. I know roughly where it is. This is what I was saying earlier on about how complicated masculinity is, but I broke it down to those 3 basic tenets because even a teenage boy can understand if you get enough money and enough power and enough powerful friends and enough sexual access that you're going to be able to build yourself to a man of... I can cry now. I've qualified to cry. When you're an 18-year-old boy, you shouldn't be crying. You should be focused, and you should be an animal, and you should be training, you should be working hard, and you should be listening, you should be going to coaching. I'm now at a level where I'm allowed to cry. I understand all the different elements of being a man. I understand the tapestry of masculinity fully. I can cry if I decide to. I've qualified for that. But before you get to that point, you have to go through all the hard shit. And the hard shit I've broken down to the 3 basics. And I think that's why they're coming to attack me so heavily. Genuinely because of what you just said. I'm telling kids things, and especially people often ask me, especially Matrix Media, they say, why did you get so big? Because I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, which every man knows is intrinsically true in his heart, because God has instilled him with a basic degree of morality of right and wrong. I'm saying things to a 17-year-old boy, and he's going, he makes sense. I get it. Everything I was told so far just didn't quite click, but this does. And that's what they're so scared of. And I agree with you. You're completely right. And this goes back to, once again, we were saying about last names, family values. The number of times I was told I couldn't do something because of my last name, I think that was my whole childhood. My whole childhood is, well, you're a Tate. Dad, I got an A. Of course, you're a Tate. It was just like, duh. Of course you got an A. But what else are you gonna get, a B? What, are you a dummy? That's who I was my whole life. I had standards exacted on me. And I've even heard, like, psychologists. I have a big problem with psychologists. I don't like them as a whole. I'll tell you some of my scenarios. I've had conversations with psychologists. There's a couple good ones, but there's a lot of them who I don't like. And their ideas, oh, you raise children, don't put standards on them, don't put pressure on them. How are they going to perform without pressure? Do you have pressure to perform in your business? Because I certainly do. I certainly do.
Pressure makes diamonds.
You think I didn't have pressure to perform when I sat down with the BBC and they tried to set me up? You think I didn't realize instantly? Okay, war. She's ready. You think there's no pressure? You think there's no pressure when they try and stab you to death? There's no pressure in life. You're going to raise a child and say, don't give him no pressure, give him no standards, so he can just be a kid. And what's he going to mold into? Absolutely and utterly not. Life is pressure, especially as a man. You need to have these exacting standards. That's how it is. My whole life was a pressure to perform to my last name. That's all it's ever been. I don't know how anyone's raised any other way. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a very difficult problem to fix. I agree with you. It's a very difficult problem to fix. But I think it starts with baseline things. And this is also why I feel like I have such a duty to act. I'll give you an example. If I could lie right now for $10 million, and nobody would find out, nobody, I still couldn't do it because God would know and he'd punish me sooner or later. I really, truly believe that I would pay the price for that lie. I truly believe it. I think if you're a man and you're growing up and you're saying, how do I act? What do I do in this scenario? What?
I don't know, Andrew. $10 million, you already got it, big bro. Shit. What we lying about first? What's the lie and who is it going to affect? What's the lie? It depends, man.
What would God want you to do? Tell the truth. You'd be amazed how far just telling the truth will get you. In any situation, I can give you benign situations that don't even matter. Your girlfriend caught you. Oh, and no, and I barely know her. Just say, yes, sorry. I love you. I'd love to stay together. But you did this. Sorry. I'm leaving. Okay, goodbye. Next day she's back. You just tell the truth. It could have gone on for weeks. She could have kept spying. She could have called the girl, all this drama. Just sometimes in life, you just man up and tell the truth. That's why in my current scenario, and I was saying earlier,
that's the only way you're free, by the way.
Yeah, completely.
Only way you're free.
Truth shall set you free.
It shall set you free. When I was saying earlier, the incompetence of my enemies is scaring me, and I don't know exactly what to do. All I can do is just tell the truth all the time. I'm going to tell the truth all the time. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say, and I'm going to tell the truth, and that's who I'm going to be. That's what I think is the best thing for me to do in the current scenario. But we're not even instilling that in children anymore. We're not even telling children how important it is to not lie.
Well, but that's also part of what you're talking about. I want to show you the stat because the guy sent it to me. And then we'll put this for the audience to see as well. Percentage of gun ownership from 1972 till today. Same thing.
Exactly the same.
If you look at the numbers, pretty much the same thing. So what's been the biggest difference is a lot of these things that we just talked about. By the way, that question you asked from 1950 till today, the candidate that's talking about this, again, I went back to politics, RFK is talking about this.
Yep.
And I think it's a very important thing to talk about because it's making people go research and see for themselves and to ask the question, what really did change?
Completely.
We've had this all the time.
Completely.
What became legal? Why are we adding all these pharmaceuticals to, kiss the Tate?
Yep.
What else would it be outside of that? So that was the foundation, which I agree with you. Household values, principles, kids, men, raising them better.
Yeah.
What else would you see as a challenge from an outside? And then I got part two of the question for you.
Yeah, it's
Anything else where you say, XYZ would also, by the way, I love the way you say Nissan and status. I just love the way you pronounce those two words, man.
Status.
For a second you said Nissan, I'm like, what is Nissan? And then I realized what you're talking about.
Well, I remember when I was young, other people's parents would tell me off. Do you remember that? Did you ever get that
Yeah,
when you were young?
of course.
Other people's parents would come up and you better not. Random adults would just tell me off. I was scared of every grown-up. Every grown-up had a degree of authority. Just random adults. We can't do that anymore. There was just a degree of community that's certainly not really lost. And asking me how to bring it back is difficult. It's very hard. And that's one of the reasons why I've become so religious recently, because I think that God is definitely part of that. And that's also the reason I want to live in the clan I live in. That's why it is. My brother can tell my kids off, no problem. If I came home and Tristan's like, I had to scream it all, I'll be like, good. I trust him in his judgment. Good. Scream at them then. Good. They're children. Also, sometimes, you know what? Kids need to be yelled at sometimes. Why not yell at them? What are they going to do? So life's hard. Life's hard. The way we pander and baby children, especially, is insane. I was talking about this the other day. I was talking about how I have a pet peeve, and one of my pet peeves is painkillers. And I was being typical me, and I was going over the top. But I was saying, I was not arguing, I was discussing with this guy. This guy said, have you got any aspirin? I said, there's no aspirin in my house. And he said, why? I said, brother, you are not facing 1% of the life difficulties I am facing. Think about it. No government's trying to lock you up. The Matrix isn't after you. They're not trying to frame you. Nobody wants you dead. When God finally gives you a tiny headache, to give you something to show you're half a man, a little bit of resilience.
Yo.
You pussy out and take an aspirin. Can't you just have a headache? Just have a headache. And not only just have a headache and don't mention it, because I don't care. So don't even talk about it. Nobody needs to know. Just have a headache and be quiet.
I have a headache, Twitter.
Yeah.
Men must suffer in silence. It is our fate. It is our destiny.
Do you want therapy? You want sympathy? Nobody cares you have a headache. Shut up. It kind of goes back into my original conversation when I was saying I don't like psychotherapists and all their garbage, because they're constantly, I don't believe in, I've had conversations with therapists a few times, and my biggest detractors and enemies say, you need to talk to a therapist. The last conversation I had with a therapist didn't go very well. I said I didn't believe in most of their field and that was garbage. And she said, why? And I said, because there are some boys who don't drink alcohol because their dad was an alcoholic, and there are some boys who are alcoholics because their dad was an alcoholic. You have the same scenario and different outcomes. So I don't believe in it. And she said, well, no, it's not an exact science, but we have generalized rules that we can follow that lead to patterns of behavior. I said, but I'm not a generalized person. I'm an exceptional person. So everything you've learned and everyone you've ever spoken to and everything in your books does not apply to me, because I am exceptional and I'm smarter than you and I've done things you could never do, and I'm a world champion athlete and I'm richer than you'll ever be. So nothing you know can possibly apply to my mindset. So why are we sitting here talking?
What was the reaction?
She just wrote things down on a piece of paper.
Hey, yo, why is Andrew Tate like this? Yo? I'm an exceptional person, so nothing you've ever done could partially analyze, psychoanalyze, or could, contend with whatever I'm doing, yo. Oh my gosh, perfect, man, perfect. I love it. He should be a fucking teacher, like it. No, I can't even do that. No.
He called me an arrogant piece of shit. Or he said don't like this guy.
Complete narcissist,
Yeah, 100%,
egomaniac.
100%.
Who knows what's going on?
But
here.
I'm right.
Yeah.
There's nothing you've learned in your
You are
book that
exceptional.
applies to people. It doesn't apply to me. So I don't want to hear it. Don't care. And this whole idea, this goes back to the thing about painkillers. That's something I didn't just make up. That's from my dad. I remember being at my friend's house, and I remember him saying I need an aspirin, and he had an aspirin. I remember just being a child and coming home and saying I want an aspirin. I remember my dad going, for what? You're a kid. Shut up. No, you're not popping pills. And I remember my mother going, it's only an aspirin. No, there's nothing wrong with you. Your body is going to go through the same damage it's suffering, if any at all, whether you feel the pain or not. Man up, get over it. It comes down to the details. It's like if you're a professional fighter and you get to a certain level, your coach, once you've been training for 10 years, your coach is honing you on the details. It's the tiniest details that make you a predator. The tiny things. Mayweather does 1% better than the guy he beats. It's the tiny details. So simple things like denying a child a painkiller when you know there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying if he had surgery, he can't have painkillers. I'm saying if he walks in, there's nothing actually wrong with the kid, say no. It's all the tiny little things you need to do to instill pain. You need to instill that resilience inside of them. I was in jail, and I could just hear crying and sobbing from every cell but mine. Everyone's in there having a mental breakdown, but me. And the scariest thing about my position, and I think it's the position for most people who end up in jail in Romania, because of how the legal system works and the extensions and that, you don't know how long you're in there for. You don't know. It could be a year, could be 5, could be 3 days. That's what messes with your brain. You're like, do I prepare for 6 months of this? Do I prepare for 5 years of this? What's going on? Nobody knows. Everyone's in there having mental breakdowns but me. Why did I not have a mental breakdown? Because I've had too much crap happen to me too many times and never took the painkiller, never took the easy way out, never asked for the therapist, never been a bitch about it. This is how life works. There's no way to the top besides the difficulty and the pain and the trauma. I'm really flabbergasted that there's men out here who still believe they're going to somehow become something of importance without it. Of course she broke your heart. Good. I'm tired of people complaining and crying about it. That's the game. That's the life. So yeah, it comes down to tiny things, even down to painkillers, smallest things. Another thing my dad used to make me do, he used to just make me drink water. I remember being a kid and it would upset me. I'd be sitting there playing chess or whatever. He'd say, go drink 2 liters of water. And I'd go and I'd get some water and I'd start drinking it and say, I'm not thirsty, I don't want to drink the rest. And he'd stand there and make me drink all 2 liters. Now I understand it was just compliance. 2 liters of water is not going to hurt me. Not going to hurt me. Do I really need it? Who knows? I drank a liter. Why do I have to drink all 2? Because he said so. That was the household. If I tried to rebel, I really don't want it, I'm not thirsty, you're going to drink that water. That's it. And it's all these tiny things that instill discipline in you. Over a long enough time frame, drink water. Yes, sir.
Bring that to compliance today, though. Bring that to compliance today. Say your dad is around today,
Yep.
and you're 12 years old,
Yep.
and you're living in Ohio,
Yep.
okay? And your dad is teaching you compliance.
Yep.
And your dad says, okay, so now teacher in school tells you what to do. He's right, he's this, he's that. What is the angle you're taking at that time?
Yeah, and that's another thing that's difficult, because back then it was much easier to say you shouldn't get in trouble at school.
Right.
Much easier. Than
Today
it
it's
is now.
kind of like a badge of honor almost.
Almost.
If you stand up.
Almost. And it is hard. But my loyalty was always to my last name above anything else. This just depends where your loyalty lies. I think that everyone, when we talk about, we can link back into religion and talk about atheists. I don't think there's such thing as an atheist nowadays. I think everyone has a religion. If you're not religious to God, you're religious to either this woke agenda, or you're religious to a political party, or you're religious to some kind of perversion. Everyone's religious to something. You have to decide what is you're most loyal to above everything. You have to put these things in hierarchy or order. In our last talk, I said this. A lot of people hold beliefs and they don't know where they got them from or why they hold them. There's people walking around who believe things and they don't know where it came from or why they so strongly believe it. They don't even have any personal experience to link it to. You truly believe 2 + 2 is 5. Why? Oh, because it just is, and the news. No. What happened to you that made you believe? Nothing's even happened to you, and you believe this with your complete core. You've been psyoped. I know where my loyalties lie. I've had them in order. I know who I put above others. I absolutely and utterly know. And sometimes in the most harsh situations on earth, there's going to be scenarios in life which are completely and utterly, they're unexpected and they're exceptionally rare, where you have to make very difficult choices. But I know my hierarchy. I know if I was in a position, a hypothetical, where I had to choose between my brother or my girl, there wouldn't be a, oops, what do I do? I know the choice.
It's never been the case between the two of you?
It's never been the case between us yet. But if it happened, I know it would be. I've had girls try and give me the line. I've had girls do it. I've had girls say, if you're going to live with your brother, then it's going to be
No,
weird.
it's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, has a girl ever come in between you guys since you were kids? Never.
It's impossible.
That's because of the value taught down.
Completely. It's absolutely impossible.
So the hierarchy of compliance and respect at that.
Real quick, if you're a young man listening to this, please do not just gloss over all these small details. In fact, I would advise you, if not mine, at least come back to this specific interview, because there's so much just raw information he's putting out here that can just help. It would be a waste for you not to implement at least a fraction of this stuff. I know I'm definitely going to.
That time, last name was first.
Yep.
Where would it be today? If you're raising kids today, what is number one? Is it God?
It is God.
Is it me second? Then who?
No, it is God. It's God first, and then it's the last name and the legacy in my teachings. I think it has to be God first. I think it has to be God first because God is the only thing that can resist this insanity. What is happening is truly evil. This is not some different worldview. No, it is evil because it is dishonest. Anything that is dishonest must be evil. It is a lie. All of it is a lie. It is constructed deliberately to be a lie. It's deliberately constructed to alter the minds of people to believe in lies. It is evil. So it has to be God first because God is truth. And I believe if I have children who put God first and then put respect for the last name and the things I've taught them second, it's very hard to corrupt them. How are you going to truly corrupt these people? It's going to be very difficult. And that's what I always try and do. And that's how I was raised. I was raised in a Christian family. I was actually raised religiously. Then I thought I was smart when I became atheistic. Because, there's a lot wrong with the world. And obviously, I've already apologized for that and understand I was completely wrong. But respect for my last name, even to this day, is still there. And that's why I say to my girlfriend, if we were walking down the street and 10 men approached with machetes, I'd just have to die. I can't be Andrew Tate ran away. I just can't. I can't be Andrew Tate ran away. I can't do it. That's the bottom line.
If you're living in this clan, right? You're living here, your family, Tristan's family, you're raising your family, Muslim, Islam. Your brother's still Christian. How's that going to work?
Well, there's one God.
God's first.
There's one God. I truly believe there's different paths to God. I truly believe that. Like I said, I'm not a religious scholar, but it says in the Quran, people of the book. Even as a Muslim man, I'm allowed to marry a Christian woman. They are of the book. It's only atheists that the Quran has a problem with, because there's something morally corrupt with them. But if you're a person of the book, a person of faith, we're not even says inside the Quran we're not supposed to convert you or insult you. We're not here to insult you or correct you. There's one path. There's different paths to the one God. I truly believe that. And another thing I'll say about clan living, in my experience, I think that men quite often get along in those scenarios. If anyone is hearing the idea of this and love the idea of this, but they feel like it would be argumentative or there'd be problems, I think that comes from the women. I think it's when women don't like each other, or the woman's in the man's ear. You're too much with the guys. I think the women are more against it than the men for some reason, unless you have a very strong frame in the relationship. I don't have that problem, but in general, the men get along. The men love it. I think it's quite firm and quite rigidly installed inside of the basic psyche of men. We like that. Men feel best in a group. It's why we charge at the gunfire. When we're with our boys, it's when we feel strongest. It's why we go out and drink and party when you're with your guys. There's something inside of you, you just feel like on fire. I think men have that. A lot of the time it doesn't seem to work and it breaks down because women can be unhappy in certain scenarios. But this is why, especially in some ethnic communities where the gender roles are more specific and defined, where the man is in charge and the woman does this, they can all live together in peace. It's much easier for them. Like I said, I grew up in a town full of Muslims. They'd have 10 families in one house. The women cooked, cleaned, looked after the children, looked after their man. The men all worked, made a bunch of money, a bunch of average-ass jobs, and they were all millionaires in 5 to 6 years.
So let me ask this other question while we're on this topic. That was a good question, by the way, Christian dynamic and Muslim dynamic. When you're saying there's a lot of ways to get there, you know, there's a religion called Baha'i. It's an element of Muslim. Baha'i is like how Mormonism to Christianity, and Baha'i believes there's 8 ways to go to heaven. That's the philosophy of Baha'i. My sister, her husband's family, they're all Baha'i, great people. But going back to this, okay, impact. Let's think impact. If a person's watching this content, most of the people that are watching this, a portion is going to be those that are haters, that just want to find, like, poke at the argument to find, you see, I told you, fine. But a lot of people that are also watching this, they're probably wanting to make impact. They want their life to have meaning behind it. That's who's watching this show today, right? Okay, so I can't be a president, but I want to make impact. I being anybody that's watching this. Because Putin says 8 years, another guy comes, or the guy with the briefcase shows up, okay, cool. Well, if you were in the States and you're saying president wouldn't be how to make an impact, but let's say there is a kid who's 20 years old, 18 years old, 25 years old, has so much drive, it's unbelievable. Ambition at the highest level. Who do you think has the biggest influence to make positive change, like real change? Is it the person with the money? Is it the person with the biggest mic? Is it the person that goes into politics? What is the best way to have the biggest impact?
Yeah, so I think the world has always only ever been a battle for influence. Even if you look at the current battlefield, Ukraine is next door, it's 5 hours drive away. The battle in Ukraine is not just about tanks and trenches and grenades. It's a battle for influence. Who influences the people within this territory? Who is in charge of the thinking, the language, the mindset of people within this geographical area? Every single battle, every single pitched battle, every single argument, every single debate has always been a battle for influence. If you have influence, you're an extremely powerful person. All of us here are some of the most powerful people in the world. How many millions of people listen to us? We have massive influence. And I think you can have influence at the ground level. You don't have to be a famous podcaster or famously well-known to have influence. I would argue that those Romanian grandmas who gave me my food will remember me for the rest of their lives. I would like to believe I gave a positive influence and a positive impact on their lives for the rest of their life. I believe you go through life and you're genuinely a good person, you try your best to be good to people, and you're honest, and you shake hands, and you don't lie, and you're on time, and you work hard, and you're good to everyone who's good to you, I think you'll have a massive influence. And I also believe, I truly believe that God is extremely giving. There's the saying, goes around, comes around. Completely true. But I would say it comes from God. God is keeping an eye on you, and he's paying attention to you, and he knows the kind of person you are and the kind of things you do. And I don't believe if you're actually genuinely a good person all of the time, that you're not going to get some goodwill back to you. Look at my scenario. If I was being a piece of shit for years with all these chicks, I'd be in jail. I'd be in jail. I could have never seen this coming. But the fact that I was nice, paid their taxi home, bought them food, looked after them. Are you okay? I know we broke up. I'm sorry. I know it hurts. I just did it. I was nice about all of it. Here I am. I'm fine. So I could have never seen this Matrix attack coming. It's amazing how what goes around comes around. It's truly amazing. If you're good to people, if you're generous to people, if you're helpful to people, you'd be amazed how much influence you can build up. I say this to people all the time. I don't think if you're a hardworking person who is honest, who shakes hands, who tries to learn, who does what they're supposed to do, who has a good heart, that you're truly, really not going to be able to get what you want. I think the universe is absolutely and utterly giving. When I see somebody who says they want something and they don't have it, I don't even think they truly even want it. You can have anything you want in the world. When a guy goes, I want a six-pack, then why ain't you got one? If you wanted it, you'd have it. You'd like it. There's a bunch of things I'd like that I don't have. But I don't want them. Everything I've ever wanted, I've got. I've never wanted something and not had it. We all know what we're talking about here. There's things we'd like. I'd like to be able to figure skate. Not enough to go learn to figure skate.
It's a weird look if you figure, although that other guy dancing like the way you dance is doing a pretty good job.
Bottom G, yeah.
You've seen this guy?
He can figure skate.
That guy kills the dance moves.
Yeah, he's good. But
Your doppelganger.
But if you truly want something, you're going to absolutely not really have it. So when it comes down to influence, I think you start at the base level, at the grassroots level.
What if this guy's got, like, you know, for example, like, you know how when you were 20, were you this driven?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so when you're 20, who did you look at and say, I can do it as good as him, if not better?
My coach, because I wanted to fight, and he used to beat me badly. Everyone used to beat me up when I was young, and I wanted to be the best. So I used to go into the fight championship.
Okay, how about communication? Who'd you look at? Were you always a good communicator? I can see you being a great communicator since you were 14 years old. Am I pretty?
I was pretty good, yeah.
Okay, who did you look at and say, that guy's good, but I think I can, you know, do it better?
That's a good question. And I think that
you know what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking. I don't know if there's one particular person I took nuances from, because when you're a great communicator, you know how to be serious, and you know how to make people sad and angry, and you also know how to make people laugh. There's different people who can do lots of different things.
So who was that? Was it somebody that was multifaceted like that?
I think it was a lot of different people, and I also think that...
Did you pull from comedy as well, or no?
Certainly did, but I was also extremely self-critical. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. I'll watch this podcast back 15 times. I will notice every single time I made a mistake. Just then I said, I'll watch twice. That was a mistake. I will watch this back 15 times, and I'll identify every single error. I have an email list, and I sign up, and I get words of the day. I get 5 or 6 new words a day, which I try my very best to memorize. It's harder than you think to memorize 5 words a day, but I always try to make sure I have the most interesting vernacular I can possibly have, a wide vocabulary, so I can be very specific with my points. The reason I actually did that, I keep talking about my dad, but I'm his son. I have the same name, Emory Andrew Tate III. He was Emory Andrew Tate II. My father was a linguist for the CIA. He spoke Russian and German and Spanish and English. And I think I've told this before. Back then, when they needed someone who spoke Russian, they would take a Native American and teach them Russian. Nowadays, we have a bunch of Russian-speaking allies. You can go to Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're all NATO and just get a Russian speaker. Back then, they taught my dad Russian, and he held the Air Force record for the fastest assimilation of a foreign language. When he died, a guy sent me an email, sent me a message saying, you don't know who I am, but I worked with your father in the Air Force, and he had the fastest assimilation. He learned Russian in 2 weeks. Crazy. And I remember saying to my dad, will you teach me Russian? He said, boy, you don't even know English.
Damn.
So what do you mean? He goes, you don't even know English.
That's fucking hard. Oh my gosh, that's hard. That's hard. Ugh. Yo, I really wish I could have like met his father, yo. It would have been great. Oh my gosh, that's hard.
And once he sat me down with a dictionary, I was like, you're right. I don't even know English. That's why I've lived in Romania 7 years. People say, why don't you speak Romanian? Because I don't know English yet. I need to finish the first job before I learn the second. I don't know English. There's a bunch of words I don't know. I can't speak how he spoke. So I don't have time for a second language. Yeah. Also, another thing I found really interesting, Putin speaks English. Have you ever heard him speak English? No. Because if you want to speak to Putin, you speak to him in his language. You speak to me in Russian. And I reply to you in Russian to you. I cannot be misunderstood or misconstrued. I don't make a fool of myself. You can't get me on some vernacular trick. I speak my language, and I also prefer that also. I speak English, that's what I speak. If you want to speak to me, you speak to me in my language, so I will win the debate always.
Who'd you look up to outside of your dad?
I look up to lots of people.
I'm talking specifically younger age, not today. I'm talking 16, 20, 25, that age. Not today.
It's a good question. Because I always believed in trying to take the best parts of individual people and then amalgamate them. And I know you want a name, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I would look at people who I didn't even respect, but they'd have one particular thing about them. I thought, that's good. It could be somebody I didn't even like, but he dressed well. I think you just have to be perspicacious and look at people, and there's something you can learn from absolutely everybody, and just try and adapt it all. I'm not saying everybody should be clones of me. For everyone's individual, right? But there might be some things about me they find inspiring that they may adapt and take on board, and then they'll find some things from other people. But learning to speak is something I understood from a very young age how important that would be. That's a superpower.
Okay, so let me go back to the question I was asking, where I'm trying to go with this. So I asked the question, I said, imagine the 20-year-old that's watching this, that's saying, no, Tate, don't give me the answer for anybody can create, contribute to society. I'm not that guy. Talk to me like I'm 1 in a million.
Okay.
Talk to me like I'm one
Cool.
in. So if I'm willing to give 20 years, 30 years of my life to one way to go up to make true positive impact in America, my country, in the world, What should, don't talk to me like everybody else.
Okay.
Hold the standards. What should I do? What angle should I
Okay,
go?
so first things first, you need to be worthy of respect. And you're going to be worthy of respect through having things which are difficult to acquire. So first things first, the basic things, you need to be very focused on trying to make money because people listen to you when you have money. They just do. Secondly, you need to be in fantastic physical condition because when you're in fantastic physical condition, it cannot be bought. It must be earned. And people know that. When you're in, I don't know about you, if someone walked in to sell me something and they were obese, I would not trust them the same as if they were in fantastic physical shape. Because I'd say, I don't think you have dedication and heart. I don't think there's something about you that I just wouldn't trust you the same. So fantastic physical condition and money is the first thing. The second thing, whatever your ideas are, you need to learn how to communicate them. Speaking is a superpower in and of itself. You need to become a fantastic communicator. You need to be comfortable in all realms of communication. You need to be persuasive. You need to be comfortable arguing. You need to be good at debating. There's a lot of people out there in the world who have ideas that they can't even project into somebody else's mind. How are you going to rule the world with that? How are you going to get your ideas out there and make an influence if you can't make other people understand exactly what you think? That's the first thing. Second thing, once they understand exactly what you think, you need to make them agree with what you think. These are two different skills. Must be practiced and must be learned. If you're 20 years old and you want to change the world, you need to be having endless debates. Endless. Without resorting to name calling, not on Twitter like a dummy, in person. And you need to come across in a way that people agree with you. We can go back quickly and talk about the red pill. The difference between me when I talk to girls on these panel shows and every other guy when they talk to girls on these panel shows is, when I'm done, all the girls want me. Watch them. Watch the shows. I say the same thing, and by the end, the chicks are in love with me, as opposed to saying the same thing and the chicks thinking I'm a dickhead. That's the difference. I project my ideas and I make them agree with my ideas to a point where they're like, texting me afterwards. I'm not saying anything different, it's how I'm communicating it. You can catch more flies with honey than hurting people sometimes. So you need to be good at everything. You need to have a Swiss Army knife of tools. I know when to be intimidating or aggressive. I know when to come across as obtuse. I know when to come across as exceptionally open-minded and easy to understand. I know when to come across as understanding. I know all these things. This all has to be practiced. And a lot of it is, communication. I would say, if you're going to say to a 20-year-old who's truly exceptional and driven, I'd say you need to become a master communicator. Because once you can do that, you can do anything. And that fixes all the other problems, right? We talk about making money. If you're a master communicator, you do fantastic in sales. Yeah. You'll kill sales. Yep. You'll absolutely destroy sales if you're a master communicator. Not many people know this, but I used to sell windows. You know the old school knock on the door? Windows sales. I did windows sales for 2 or 3 years, and I'd say this is one of the hardest jobs you could possibly do. And I would always recommend a young man, if he has some time to waste, to go sell windows. And the reason, it's fantastic, because I'll tell you why. It's the hardest one to sell because, 1, nobody wants them. 2, they don't know who you are. And 3, even if you convince them that they need windows, after them not knowing who you are, then they go to all your competitors and then it becomes a price war. It's a nightmare. It's the hardest sales job. If you're selling a Lambo, at least they want the Lambo, right? Nobody wants glass and plastic. They already have windows. So you got to find a way to sell them these windows. How do you do that? And that's where all this master communication comes in. And it's so many subtle little things. Being a good salesman is not necessarily being a liar. It's not being a trickster. It's just understanding what's going to make the person believe and understand what you say. If I walked in and said, would you like new windows? And they essentially said, no, we don't need new windows. Our windows look fine. I would say, but what about the security aspect? While looking at their 3-year-old child. And they'd sit there and go, what do you mean security aspect? And then I talk about how we had the Lock 5000, and their locks are easy to break, as if glass isn't glass. It's all the same anyway. And you'd end up selling the windows. You have to find the triggers in people. There's another thing people don't understand about me and my message. Sometimes I sit here and I say things that piss people off because that's how you trigger people to make action. I have often written emails or done videos, especially to men when I want to help men, to piss them off. You're a loser. You're a dumbass. Andrew, why you mean? Because you're not going to go to the gym unless I tell you you're a fucking loser. And you are a loser, and I'm not lying to you. You are a loser. The emotional trigger you need to get up off that chair is the fact that you're not important, nobody cares who you are, any girl you're ever in love with I could take, and you're insignificant. And when you die, nobody's interested. That's your fault. You could have been something else. You did that. You failed. It has to be done. You have to be a master communicator. And sometimes that involves also insulting people. It's all a massive tapestry, but to answer your question, for the 20-year-old, he needs to become a master at communicating. But also to be a master at communicating, you also need experiences worth talking about. You have to live a life. You need a degree of wisdom, and wisdom doesn't always come with age, it comes with life lived. I had a guy message me, this is a long time ago when I used to reply to my own emails, too big now, But he said, I don't have any stories. My life's boring. I said, bro, where do you live? He said, Madrid. I said, bro, ride the train from Madrid to St. Petersburg. Ride the train from Madrid to Vladivostok. Do the Trans-Siberian Railway. Cost you like $300. He goes, oh, but what if I get robbed? Exactly! That's exactly the point! What if you get robbed? Now you have a story. Maybe you'll die, maybe you won't. But you have a story. Don't bring your watch. Have you got a Rolex? No. No one wants to rob you anyway. Don't worry about it. You're brokey. Get on the train. There has to be that degree of risk to even have a story, because when you have a story, then you can communicate the story. You can't be an empty vessel either. So when you say you're telling me how I build this 20-year-old into a super soldier. Yeah, he has to be a master communicator, but he also has to do things which are risky. Risk has value intrinsically linked to it, intrinsically. This is why people, when you do risky things, people want to hear the story. Your coolest stories involve risk. Something went wrong, this could have happened, I almost this, I made it out. Without these risks, you haven't got it. So I would say to the 20-year-old, do what I did. Get in the cage. Get in the ring. Knock someone out, get knocked out, train hard. Fighting will teach you everything you need to know about life. You'll learn everything about who you truly are. You'll learn if you're a coward or not. You'll learn everything about perseverance and hard work and dedication, everything about being underappreciated. You learn everything about fear. You learn all of it. You learn everything about people. You win a fight, check your phone. Lose a fight, check your phone. You learn all about people. You learn all about them. You learn all about women. I learned so much about women through fighting. When I had a fight coming up and I was weight drained and I had barely eaten in weeks and I'd lost all this weight and I had a world title fight and I'm fighting a guy who might kill me and she's complaining about the toilet seat. I learned all about women. You learn a lot about life through these difficult processes and paths. And there used to be for men like a rite of passage. In most societies, you had to go through something to become a man, from a boy to a man. But that thing was always difficult. It's always been difficult. Now you have to self-induce it, self-inflict it. But if you're going to be a boy and never bring on that self-inflicted rite of passage, how are you going to ever become a man?
It's great feedback.
Let me ask a question about this. I love what you said, especially, number one, you're a wordsmith, you're a linguist, no doubt. I mean...
I don't know English yet, bro.
Yeah,
I'm practicing.
You're still working on your
practicing.
English. You know, you've got the kickboxing belts all up over here. I would argue, I've never seen you fight, but I would argue that your linguistic skills are better than your fighting skills. I'll let you judge that.
I'll take that.
I totally agree with you that the way that you speak to a man is way different than the way you talk to a woman.
Yeah.
You can tell a guy, you're a loser, get your fat ass in the gym, and a guy would be receptive to that. So I can't tell you how many men come up to Pat, dude, what was Andrew Tate like? What was Tate like? Tell me about Tate. Tell me a Tate story. Dude, that guy's so cool. He's such a badass.
I'm no longer interested in just random chicks.
Why do I feel like no one ever says that? Dude, Andrew Tate, how was he? He's such a badass. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to have admiration, respect, and, you know, even a little reverence for somebody, especially if they helped you out on your journey. But I do not believe people like, oh my God, Andrew Tate, he's such a badass. I don't know if I buy all that stuff. Maybe there are grown men doing that, though. I don't know.
I want a woman who I know would wait for me if I did 10 years. That's what I want. That's what I find interesting. That's what I'm in love with now. I can't be in love with a random chick. Also, once you get to a certain level of fame and influence, you're no longer winning the exchange. I feel like a lot of men like going out there and pulling girls because they feel like they won. Haha, look at this hot girl I got. Whereas if I go to the club and get a hot girl, oh, okay. Me, the famous millionaire, the most Googled man on earth, got a hot chick. Who really won here? Who pulled it off? She did. She'll brag, or rat, or kiss and tell, or ask for handbag. Like what did I win? Sex? Who cares? It's uninteresting to me. I don't want a child with her. I don't want a family with her. I don't want a future with her. So why do I even want her at all? I'm really beyond all of that stuff. So now, it's kind of funny. In jail, I got thousands of love letters from women. Thousands. I got thousands of love letters from women in jail.
Did you read them all?
I read every single one.
Yeah, but you have time. But you went through all of them.
All of them.
Got it.
Thousands of love letters.
Craziest letter you got? What's the craziest letter you got?
A lot of poems. One had drops of blood on it. She did a little cut. Lots and lots of love letters. Lots just saying that I'm the last man. They've been in love with me. They watch all my podcasts. And they were with, one of them said she was with her ex-boyfriend. He started watching me. Then she started watching me. Then she wanted me, not him, and got rid of him. And all this craziness. But I didn't trust any of it. Is it real? Is it an agent? Is it a psyop? Who's she? Is she crazy? What if I sleep with her and she says I did something to her? What if 13 years later she contacts the BBC? Garbage.
That would never happen, Andrew.
I don't talk to any new chicks. Same as I don't have any new friends. I don't talk to any new chicks. No new girls.
That's what I thought.
Zero.
So let me ask you. the idea of going through a lot of girls when you're younger, do you think a man needs to go through that, or do you think that is a form of a weakness that holds you, that you're a slave to it?
Right. So that's a good question, and it's a fine line because there's arguments on both sides. However, I think in all scenarios and life experience is always going to be valuable, no matter what it is. You need to have experience. If you're inexperienced to anything, whether it's hunting, figure skating, girls, you're going to suffer.
You pointed at him. You're saying like insinuating.
Sorry, I know. He told me figure skating, and we made fun of it earlier. But
I was technically Patrick.
oh, sorry.
We're talking
figure
about the
skating. You need experience, and experience is exceptionally important. Also, as a man, especially when you're young, you're gonna get your heart broken a bunch of times. Some bigger, older, richer dude's gonna take that chick, and you need to get used to that pain.
So
you need to get through it. So I do think it's a necessary part of being a man, but you don't want to be led by it. There has to become a point where you go, you know what, I'm versed enough. And also, another thing I would like to say is the reason you need to but date lots of women when you're younger, so you have choices.
Define the two.
Yeah.
Which is more important, date or sleep, in your eyes?
I feel like you don't really. I think that sleeping with a woman, you learn more about them as a closer relationship. So I'd say probably sleep with X amount, not crazy amounts, but I would say that. Okay, let me give an example. If I go to the supermarket and pick up an apple, and it's the only apple I've ever eaten, can I really say if it's a good apple or a bad apple? It's the only apple I've ever tasted. It might be sour, it might be terrible, I don't know. Whereas if I try 10 apples, I can tell the differences between apples. I say, what's a good apple, what's a bad apple? I think you need that degree of experience, because sometimes you'll be with a woman and go, yeah, she's great, but if you're not experienced enough, you realize she really isn't all that great, and she actually treats you like a dickhead. Whereas if you've been with enough women, you can always reference back to that girl who actually was really good to you. And you'll probably mess it up because you're young and you're dumb. We've all done it. All of us have that girl we had who was perfect when we were young, and we all ruined it because we're stupid.
Who was that person for you?
Okay. Can't say names.
But no, not names. I'm not asking for names. But I have mine as well.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like when I watch you and you're going through your for example, so I don't know what kind of movies you like, but there's movies where it's redemption or vengeance. Like, I don't know if you watch Gladiator, 43rd minute, he walks up to the house, sees his wife, sees his kids, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna tear you apart, right? And you watch that over and over again, or Taken, or Man on Fire, or some of these movies that are just putting that energy in you, right? So, girl that breaks your heart, and to produce the energy to say, watch who I'm gonna be in life. For the rest of your life, you're gonna brag about the fact that you could have had me, right? And then comes to a point where you're like, okay, there's not much more I can do. She's already knows what she missed out on. Now what? But for me, go back to you. I'm curious. How bad of a breakup was it? How bad did she break your heart? I know you're
I think lots of men have gone through heartbreak. A lot of men have, and I wouldn't say that I've gone through any heartbreak which is particularly worse than any other guy. What I will say is that I think heartbreak is the most fantastic motivator on the planet. When a lot of men message me and say they're heartbroken, I think that is the most fantastic mindset to be in to achieve things. Because there is that degree of revenge, and there is that degree of vengeance, and that can only be achieved through being so successful, so monumentally important that she can't forgive you. And also, you cannot even sleep, you can't even concentrate, like your whole mind's a mess. That's the perfect time to train. I know what you're saying. I don't think I've been through a particularly bad heartbreak, but I'm saying that.
Who did she leave you for? Did she leave you for somebody
No, I don't think I've had a particularly bad heartbreak. I only mention heartbreak all the time because I know it's a path every single young man goes through.
I also think you're not the type of guy that would ever give credit to that person, if there was one. So I don't see you saying that, because it is a form of a victory over Top G, which that's not going to happen.
Well, that's part of it, but then let's analyze now, right? There's no girl who I've ever been with in my life who can now turn on the internet without seeing my face.
Sure.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's the win.
They have to all lie to their man and pretend they don't know me.
Oh, I don't know him.
Because if they go, I was with him for a few years, their whole relationship will probably break down, because then he's gonna get pissed off and insecure. So that to a degree is a victory. That's kind of fun. But no, I didn't have any. The reason I say heartbreak is because In the modern world, I don't think things were as bad when I was younger. I think women were more pure when I was younger. Even in these, when I was 20, it's only 16 short years. I think women were actually a lot purer before OnlyFans, before Instagram. The sexual marketplace wasn't globalized.
Yeah.
When I was 20, if there was a hot girl in the small town, she was the hot girl in the small town. Now, if she's the hot girl in the small town, she's also in Dubai and Courchevel, and the whole world's globalized. The competition's globalized. Everything's changed. I didn't have a particularly hard time. The reason I say heartbreak is because 80% of the emails I get from men are about heartbreak. I think that most men, especially young men in the world today, are getting their hearts broken. And when you're saying who are they leaving for, they're leaving for the millionaire who hits them up on Instagram. It's hard.
Is that what happened to you?
That's not what happened to me. No.
Okay.
But I'm talking about the emails I get. You're a guy, you're in Nebraska, to high school sweetheart, she's a 10, everything's fine. She's in Courchevel with a millionaire. Instagram. You had an argument one day.
I'm trying to target you purely for one reason. Because a big part of my drive, I've had drive always. I was a dreamer. I was the guy that was, but at the same time, the drive for success came after a lot of pain.
Of course.
Coming right afterwards. So that's why I'm asking you a question. So when that happened to you, did you fear risk of loving somebody? Where it's kind of like, I'll get this close, but boom, I got to move on. No, I got to move on. Did that happen or no?
No, I wouldn't say that particularly happened. What did happen though, like I said earlier, is when you have experience with lots of different apples, you know what a good one and a bad one is. So when we say we all had that girl we messed up when we were young, if I found another girl with those qualities, I certainly wouldn't mess it up. You need experience to understand what you have to value it. If you don't have experience, you don't value what you have. So the original question is a really good one of whether men are chained and enslaved by their desires or whether they need to sleep with lots of women. I think in the modern world you need experience and you need choices and you need options. But if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. If you're going to be the guy who's also out there in the club and sleeping with lots of girls, talking to lots of girls, there's going to be times you lose a girl that you don't want to lose. You can't be a coward about it. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. There's up and down, there's rain and sunshine. You have to be that man who's going to go through it all. And then when you've been through enough of it, like I have, like I said, if I find a beautiful girl now who's a 10 and deletes and doesn't want Instagram, that's worth more to me than 1,000 stupid girls.
Respect.
Yeah, that's who I want.
Yeah, I got you.
For my safety, for my security, for my peace of mind, for everything.
You're clear on what you want today.
Absolutely, because I know.
When you played, you said there was a phase of my life that I kind of went through it. Okay. Was that after the heartbreak?
I would say, yeah, it was after, but I think that was just, I don't know if that was deliberately driven by heartbreak. I think I was just younger and I had less serious motivations. And I wasn't as famous and I wasn't as rich and I was less interested in. So it's not just my current situation that makes me say this. I would say this to any man. If your woman wouldn't wait for you if you went to jail for 5 years, why are you with her? Why? If she wouldn't wait, I know she's hot, I know she's funny, I know she makes you laugh, but if you can't sit in that jail cell with 100% certainty that she's not out with her friends, them in her ear, talking shit, watching Sex and the City, whatever it is, and her ending up with some other guy, why are you even buying her dinner? For what, sex? Like that loyalty to me is the only thing left that's valuable. When I'm interested and we're in jail, we're sitting there saying we have it so much better than most guys. Because most guys in jail, imagine you're a normal person, you go to jail. Who's feeding your family? Who's paying the rent? Who's feeding your kids? I said, Tristan, we're in jail and we're suffering, but everybody we love is good. I'm a man, I'm supposed to suffer. I'll sit here with the cockroaches. If that means all my kids eat, everyone I care about eats, my mother's fed, my mother has a house, roof over her head, everybody has everything they want. Only person suffering is me. I'll take that all day. Most men who go to jail can't say that. Another thing that gave me absolute peace of mind is the women who love me are waiting for me. Imagine you go to jail and you're completely heads over heels in love with a woman, but you know deep in your heart that she's out in the club and she's stealable. We talk about thoughts you can't get out of your head in jail. It's amazing how when you lose all access to electronics, how thoughts are amplified. Most of us sitting here, you've never been without a phone or without a laptop or without a computer for 93 days. You'd be amazed how loud you can think. You'd be amazed how vivid your mind is. I learned that. If you had the nagging thought in your head, I loved her, she cheated on me before, maybe she cheated again, she hasn't written me in 3 days, and then plus jail. That's why they're all crying. That's why all the men in there were sobbing. Their wives are either fucking someone else or the bills ain't paid. It's not just his situation, it's everything else. Yeah. So now if you're gonna say to me, what do I respect in a woman? I respect a woman who's gonna wait for me. I have no interest in a woman, oh, she's funny, she's cool, she's hot. Don't care. Don't care. Is she going to wait for me? And I also know, because of my experience, which ones would and which ones wouldn't. I'm not stupid. Because they'll all say they would. They'll all say they'll wait because they're on the jet. But I know which ones are lying because enough women have lied to me. I've seen it. So you do need that experience, but once you have the experience, you start looking for completely other things.
Quick story to almost validate your point about experience. I like the direction Pat was going with this about if you want relationships or sex with a woman. Quick anecdote. Your friend Myron, Fresh and Fit, we just did a big live event 3 days ago. It was myself, Myron, Fresh, we're sitting on a panel, 20 women. And he goes, watch this. Masterclass. Andrew, masterclass. He asked all the women on the panel, average 25-year-old woman, you tell me the amount of sexual partners she's had. What's the body count? And these women give a wide range of, the 3, 10, 15, 20. One girl said 100. Numbers were crazy. Goes down the list. Ask all you, okay, great. Ladies, show of hands. How many of you want a man with more sexual experience than yourself? Every single girl put their hand up and they said, yeah, I want a man with more experience than myself. And the reason this came about was because Ben Shapiro reacted to a video of me questioning Myron. All right, when should a man get married? And he basically gave a checklist. You need to make $100 grand a year. You need to have slept with 50 women. You need to have 6 to 12 months of savings. A checklist. And Ben Shapiro was like, that's disgusting. This is a guy that married the first person that he had sex with. And it was incredible to see every woman validate everything that Myron was saying and everything that you were saying about experience.
Oh, women respect experience. In fact, I saw on a TV show, and this was like 10 years ago, and I have no idea what the show was, but it was a show about, it was on Channel 4 in the UK, and it was a show about sex and 85% of virgin women would rather sleep with a man who'd already had sex than a virgin man.
Wow.
A virgin woman doesn't even want a man with the same level of experience. You're respected for your level of sexual experience. And women are naturally demonized for their level of sexual experience. And even the ones in the West who pretend that's not true, the ones who are fully psyoped, wait till they see a girl they don't like. What's the first thing they call her?
She's a hoe.
Whore, slut. First insult out their mouth is she's promiscuous. So they know deep in their heart promiscuity is bad because they call each other promiscuous when they want to insult each other. So yeah, you absolutely need that experience to make sure you don't get wrecked and psyoped. But now, and just in my current dating life, and it's good that this is on this podcast, so the girls can still email me. It's nice to read, but sorry, I don't trust any of you. I don't trust any of you. I don't trust anybody new. I have no new friends, no new girlfriends. Absolutely no. I'm not interested in any of it because the things I value now are not the things I valued when I was younger. My life was very, very different, but I'm glad I had that experience now, so I can see who is lying and who isn't. I can tell. I can just instantly tell if they would lie or not.
So let me kind of get to the point of what I was trying to say. I'm kind of more on your side. I don't have a Ben Shapiro story. But I think what happens is there's also risk for men to fear because that could happen to me, so therefore I will never risk getting into a relationship because of X, Y, Z. So Chelsea Handler, he brings her up, right? Our initial reaction was, look at her, she's doing this, she's doing that. So let me look up what her life was like. And Mario Aguilar says, hey Pat, did you know her life? I said, I have no idea what her life was. So she's 9 years old. Her brother at 22, who was her hero, her first love, her first, her second father, loves him. He's going mountain climbing. He says, Chelsea, can't wait to come back and see you. Great, goes mountain climbing, falls, dies. She's 9. She comes back, she says, the most painful time of my life, right? So then when she needs her father to be there for her, he's gone. He's devastated. They had 6 kids, I believe. Mom and dad were still together. So they're married, and they were doing okay, car salesman, making money. And then she says, till today, I may be successful, and she puts the act in the book, I'm still in a lot of pain. She was being interviewed by Howard Stern. Got emotional talking about this. Okay. So we can sit there and laugh about it, but for men, similar thing happens as well. Well, a girl broke my heart. Dude, I will never, ever give this risk to that. I think there's also, as influencers, we have to also make sure that men know, look, just look at the stuff that you did wrong.
Completely.
Look at the stuff on how you repositioned yourself in the wrong way. Right off the bat, being too much of a this, that. Now, just when you go in, like the way you said, I love when you said, what are you doing watching this show? We don't watch this in this house. We watch this. Now impose and earn the respect to be able to impose your beliefs in a way where you can coach and lead.
You nailed it, because what did I say earlier about this podcast? How many times I'm going to watch it back?
15 times.
Yeah, because I live in experience, and I analyze the experience, and I draw every lesson from that experience. If you're a man who has their heart broken, a lot of them are so stupid that they may revert to the mindset that you've said. They may say, oh, I don't want to have my heart broken again, but they haven't sat there and said, why did this happen? You have to know the why to prevent it from happening. You have to analyze the scenario and learn from it. One thing I'll say about women that's fantastic, one of the best things women are one of the things women are best at is they're a fantastic mirror. Women are a reflection. If you have any weakness inside of you, or if you have any downfalls as a person, a woman's gonna show you who they are. If you're too emotional, if you're too easy to get angry, she'll teach you that. She'll teach you that you can get angry too fast. Piss her off. If your dick's small, she'll tell you. she'll tell you exactly what is wrong with you when she is mad. She'll sit there and say, you got a short leg and your haircut's shit. Get a new haircut. I hate your ugly ass. They'll tell you exactly what is wrong with you. When you look at your bad or your previous relationships with women that went wrong, you can sit there and go, okay, this all went wrong. What has she taught me? She taught me that I'm emotionally affectable. She taught me that if she ignores me, she gets more attention than if she's nice to me. She taught me, you have to sit there and analyze all the lessons and you have to implement them. It's the same with absolutely everything. But women are a fantastic mirror. A lot of these guys who resort to that are men who don't have the self-reflection to sit and say, okay, why did this happen? As a man, you have to be accountable for absolutely everything. Every single thing that happens is your fault. I didn't go to jail because of Romania. When I was in jail, it was my fault. Even though I don't believe it was just, even though I do not believe it was fair, even though I know I am innocent, it is my fault. Because I didn't have to become so influential. I did it. But it's also my fault when I'm on the jet and living my perfect life. I did that. I did the good, I did the bad. You made her leave you. You did. Whether you like it or not, you are the reason she became so cold. You are the reason she doesn't listen anymore. You are the reason she's so arrogant all of a sudden.
100%.
You are. You may not have identified why yet, but if you identify why, then you get into your next relationship healed and understanding what you did wrong and learn from it. That's what you have to do. But most of these men don't want the self-accountability.
I love that.
And they want to blame the women.
Yep.
You have to blame yourself. I know exactly now how to keep a woman happy. So I ain't got nothing to worry about. I've learned my lessons. I know exactly how to keep a woman happy. I know when to set a boundary, when to be nice. I know exactly what to do because I've self-analyzed. A lot of these red pill guys, they want to do exactly like you said, just run around and just bang chicks because they've never looked in the mirror and go, why do these chicks not want to just love me? Why am I a fuck up? You're not perfect. God is perfect. Nobody is perfect. You have to analyze yourself. If you fix those problems, I'll give you an example. Even when I first started getting rich, I never worried about gold diggers because I can't be gold dug. But I was always a bit like weird about if a woman wants something expensive, that I was always a bit like, not because I'm tight, but just like, oh, we haven't been together that long. Why does she want such an expensive bag? Da, da, da. And over time I learned they don't want the expensive bag because it's an expensive bag. It's because my life is now so expensive and so grand. When I'm doing hyper expensive things, if I buy a $5 million car, I look like a dummy if I won't buy a $500 bag. I look frugal, and frugality is a form of fear, and it looks fearful. I could say no to a $500 bag when I had no money to the exact same girl, but when you have a certain amount of money, it's not that they're gold digging you, it's just that to you it's nothing, and there's a degree of gesture to it. And I also learned over time that, you know, the best way to get new beautiful women is for them to see your ex and how well she was treated. They love that shit. They love it. When they see all your ex, because women will do that. Women stalk me. When I had Instagram, they'd stalk me. And they'd see the lifestyle my girl lived. And as soon as I was single, they were like, hey, woo, they want to turn. So I was like, you know, I actually get a larger ROI just being Mr. Nice. Cool. It's also helped me in my current situation. I've never been mean to anybody. Please call him. No, he was nice to me. Bye. There's a lot you learn, but you have to self-reflect and learn and pay attention to the mirror. These men who are afraid of commitment are not blaming themselves like they should. Because I actually truly believe, and this is never going to make the misogynistic supercut of the BBC, I actually truly believe that women in their hearts, unless they're completely corrupted by society, women just want to love and be loved and feel safe. That's what they want. They want a man that they can look at and they truly know he makes the decisions and I trust him to make the decisions and I love him for that and I respect him for that. That's what they truly want. When a woman starts turning on you, it's usually because she doesn't trust you for some reason. She doesn't trust your judgment. And that's not always cheating. It can be other things. Doesn't trust your judgment as a whole, right? If she starts to doubt your judgment, how can she truly love you? You're the protector. You're the provider. So if a woman's gone cold on you, you have to sit there and go, okay, she doesn't trust my judgment.
Feedback.
She doesn't trust my judgment. What have I done that made her doubt me? Did I get my 6th booster injection like a dumb?
Young men, this is important. This whole segment right here is invaluable.
I mean, no wonder she doesn't want dick. Because I keep injecting myself with poison because I'm an idiot. It's not her fault. It's your fault. Every single time a woman leaves you as a man, it is your fault. Always. Even if a richer, more successful, more alpha man stole her from you, it's still your fault because you need to be like him. It's always 100% your fault. These men don't take accountability. It's 100% their fault.
I got one last topic, unless if you got a follow-up.
No, keep going.
Okay, so last topic here. Phenomenal way to finish that up, because I think sometimes the messaging from that community is, no, it's just everybody's this versus, no, you got to take some accountability.
Sorry, before you go on, but that's a fantastic point, because people say to me, can you turn a hoe into a housewife? And I say, listen, I wouldn't want to, but I bet I fucking could. There ain't a woman alive who's going to cheat on me. With who? With who? With who? Who's she gonna cheat on me with? Fucking the guy in Starbucks? Mr. KFC? No. She's with the top G. She's got all the clout. She's with the boss. She's in the 5-star in the Italian Alps. She's on the Gulf Stream. She's in the Bugatti. Everyone's jealous of her. Who the fuck is she gonna cheat with? Nobody. There's not a girl alive I couldn't get loyalty from. Now, would I ever want to do it? Probably not. I like the idea of exclusivity. But once you get to a certain level, yeah. If you're that guy, you're that guy.
Let me ask you a question. There's somebody that's single right now. You think you can turn her to be an exclusive to you? Her name is Kim Kardashian. How about I mean, she's watching. You know,
I wouldn't do that to Yeezy. I wouldn't do it to her. Wouldn't do it to her.
Okay.
I'm
He's
sorry.
married now.
No, but you know what? This is actually another
But by the way, I love what you just said right now.
But I wouldn't.
I love what you just said right now. We were having a conversation the other day about the relationship with men, how it's supposed to be the men relationship. Just the fact, like I had a friend of mine, her ex, dropped it gorgeous. Like when I tell you dropped it, I mean dropped it gorgeous. And everybody loved her. And I could look at her and say, you're dying. Her and her boyfriend broke up. 3 years they were together. I get out, all she wants to do is talk to me. We're hanging out, hey, how about this, how about that? I said, listen, there's no way you and I could ever be together. No way, because you dated the guy that was my best friend. I like you a lot, you're beautiful, you're gonna find somebody, it's just not gonna be you.
100%.
And she went a different direction. But that right there is the values that must be taught.
100%.
Because I think the same way we have to teach the values of what it is to be running mates. Men, hey man, if you're in my circle, that's the expectation. But it's the same way that you have to also, lead your woman to say, if this is gonna be a relationship, here's the standard as well.
100%. And you know what? Maybe I'm getting a little bit sentimental in my old age.
Here we go.
But I am. Let's say I meet a girl, right? And she's 23, 24. And she's been with a guy for 6 or 7 years, and he loves her with all his heart. And she's talking to me. Part of me feels bad. I'm like, this is just like shooting fish in a barrel. This isn't even fair. This guy's gonna be heartbroken, man. He's gonna be devastated when he realizes she's with me. It's gonna hurt him because he's gonna know there is no chance at all. No matter what he types in that text, it's done. And I actually feel bad. And I'll say to chicks, you know what? If you break up with him properly, leave it a while. I'm getting to that point now where I'm like, not while you're still kind of talking to him, no. I feel bad. It's too easy. I feel bad. So when I say I wouldn't do it to Kanye, I actually mean that. Pussy is not worth me, her. I don't even know him. But just like he loved her a lot, I'd feel bad. I just couldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. I can't explain.
You're showing the soft side, Tate.
I just wouldn't do it. But it's also an interesting point you say about friends. That's super interesting. I could leave any of my girls with my friends for 20 years in a jail cell, and they would never touch her. I know it. I know it. And I do believe that birds of a feather flock together. And when I've had a lot of guys email me as well, and they say, hey, man, my friend slept with my girlfriend. I don't know what to do about it. And I will say, that's because you're a bitch. You're a bitch. And I'll tell you why you're a bitch, because you're rolling with bitches, which means you must be one. Because I'll tell you what, none of my friends, nobody on my team would ever do that to me, ever. If me and my girl split up, she is gone, she is done. They would never touch her in a million years, because that's the quality of man I roll with, because that's the quality of man I am. You become a better man, you'll get better friends, and this shit won't happen to you. If your own friends are snaking you for pussy, you're probably the kind of guy who snakes your own friends for pussy, so I blame you. It's your fault.
I saw a clip the other day. You know who Shannon Sharp is? Shannon Sharp. I saw a clip from Shannon Sharp the other day. He said, He found the love of his life. She was married. He paid for her to get a divorce from him because he knew that was his. That's such a weird angle. I don't know if you heard what I just said.
Yep.
So you're married. Oh, you're mine. I'm going to pay you to go divorce your guy to be with me. What do you think is going to happen later on to you when another opportunity arises? But again, social media is so open with influence that a boy or a man at the wrong time can see a message like that, thinking that's what it is to be a man. And as a person that's got a lot of influence, some of these things need to be unpacked. Let's go to the last message here.
Sure.
So Mel Gibson just recently announced that he's doing a 4-part documentary on the $32 billion pedophilia business. I don't know if you saw this or not.
I did, yeah.
This just came out yesterday. And we talked about BBC earlier, you know, and BBC and Philip Schofield and ITV and all these guys. Yeah. And they had another guy back in the days, Jimmy Savile,
yeah.
you know, who there's a documentary on him. That guy's darker than a lot of these guys. And they knew and they kept him for a long time. And stories have been out there. Woody Allen, we talked about Woody Allen. We talked about a lot of different guys. And Woody Allen married the stepdaughter when she was 5, 6, 7 years old, ends up marrying her and says, hey, you know, he's one of the greatest such and such of all time. And that whole industry of what it's doing. Some will say, well, you know, it's not really as real as people think it is. Some will say it is. Some will say, well, this whole movement is because of that, you know, LGBTQ, that's taking place with kids, and it's a next step of what we're going to next. What are your thoughts with the topic of pedophilia?
Yeah, okay. Firstly, I would never kill myself. That's the first thing. Jesus. Right.
I'm giving you easy questions. No, it's a soft topic. It's not like a heavy topic.
No, but it's true. But that's the final line of morality they're trying to pierce. Like I said, I have no problem with gay people. And then we talked about LGBTQ and how they're trying to mix it all together and take people who are on the extreme end of the spectrum with people who live fairly normal lives. You can be a gay person. This is another thing I want to make clear. You can be a gay person and live a very normal life. You can also be a gay person and be a degenerate. Deciding to get naked in front of children has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. That's just the fact that you're a degenerate person. It doesn't matter if you sleep with a man or a woman. The fact that you want to go and walk around naked in front of kids is degenerate behavior, regardless of sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with it. Right. It's only accepted if you're homosexual. If you're a heterosexual, it's a crime. For some reason, if it's a homosexual, it's not a crime, but it's the same act, and it's degenerate. It's the final line. The final line is children. It's the final line of sexual morality that they're trying to attack. They've attacked every other line. It's the final line they're trying to pierce. And I think a lot of this pedophilia comes down to, I think a lot of it comes down to control. So, yeah, what Mel Gibson is doing is super interesting. It's super interesting that he's attacking the most liberal establishment on the planet. Super interesting that he's attacking Hollywood, which is obviously the heart of the liberal propaganda machine. And he's saying they're the worst people on earth. And I sit and say, well, if you take these people outside of Hollywood, would they matter? This is a really interesting point. You can actually apply this to nearly any job. If you took you away from your sales job, or took me away from my role, or you away from, let's say you had a sales job at a specific company, you would still be a good communicator, you'd still know how to speak, you'd still have charisma, you'd still be a man of status, you'd still know how to walk, you still have a presence, you still know how to behave, right? There are certain people in certain establishments where if you strip them of their title, they're nothing. If you took Harvey Weinstein away, or Weinstein, whatever his name is, away from Hollywood, he's just a fat, old, ugly dork. That's all he is. He's only something because of Hollywood. Outside of that, he's nothing. These are the people who end up using their influence in whatever sphere they're in to do negative things, because outside of it, they ain't shit. If you're a real G, if you're a real man, if I was in Hollywood, I was a real man, I wouldn't have to use Hollywood to get girls. I'm fine. I think a lot of this stuff is run, I think a lot of these people who are doing these things are just not very good or very impressive people. Oh yeah, you may be a big shot in Hollywood. Delete that from your resume. Who are you? Oh, you ain't shit. Sit down and talk to these people. What have you even done with your life? You ain't shit. You made it to the top of Hollywood by what? Who even knows how you got there? Wink, wink. You got there through whatever. So I think that's what a lot of this stuff is. And going back to everything we've been saying so far, Andrew, how do you solve pedophilia? I think if a man has a healthy sexual relationship with women and has options and feels respected by women and enjoys the company of women and women like him and admire him and look up to him, he will have no desire to go down the route of sexual perversion and chase children. I don't think he ever would. Why would he? Right? What my cousin said was only a joke. But sometimes there's a degree of truth in the humor. He's a young, good-looking black guy on the football team. He gets girls. Why would he do this dumb shit? When you see some fat, overweight video game loser, they're the ones on the TV doing it. So once again, like nearly any problem on earth, whether it's pedophilia, whether it's school shooting, whether it's men's mental health, whether it's women's mental health, whether it's female promiscuity, no matter what it is, whether it's crime, no matter what it is, how do you fix the problem? By building men of caliber, by building men of capability and status and honor and dignity, and by building men of ability to be good standing citizens who are respected by their peers. All of it comes back to improving men. All of it. Every single problem you can possibly name, even pedophilia, comes back to building strong men of capability who are respected. That's all. It's the baseline of humanity. Men always has been the baseline of humanity. And that's why nearly every problem we can name, whether it's pedophilia, whether it's anything else, school shooting, whatever, all of them are in a direct negative correlation with masculinity. As masculinity plummets, all this garbage is going up through the roof. Is that a coincidence? Absolutely not, really not. You can literally see it with a graph, and you can see it happening. Saving the way men think and operate, growing a new generation of men who understand they have duty to themselves, their last name, and God, literally saves the world. All of it. And I'm telling you, the reason this Hollywood garbage happens is because outside of Hollywood, none of them people are mildly impressive in any regard. And that's why they have to do the disgusting, heinous things they do. And that's why they're gonna attack me and pretend I'm a fucking predator, and that I'm the bad guy, and that I'm dangerous to women. When truly, people like Philip Schofield are the ones who are doing it, but they're part of the club. And that's what actually upsets me, truthfully. I'm a difficult man to affect. And I understand that I'm in the middle of a war here, and I understand that one way or another, with God on my side, I will win. But it is extremely frustrating to have people who commit X crime with impunity accuse you of X crime. That's a very uniquely annoying scenario. When somebody who does something themselves accuses you of it when you're innocent.
Not allegedly. They've been
Caught. And they accuse you of it.
Big difference.
And then they sit there and go, it's a terrible thing to do. You do it. All of these liberals and elites attacking me do it. And I don't. And I'm the one who's sitting in a fucking dungeon for it? It's insane.
What should be the punishment for that?
I think attacking innocence is the most heinous thing you can possibly do.
Did you hear what DeSantis announced?
No.
Death penalty for that.
Well, I think absolutely. They're innocent. Attacking innocence is the biggest act of cowardice. It's cowardice. Attacking innocence is the biggest possible act of cowardice. Even, you don't shoot an unarmed man. Even in war, there's the Geneva Convention. There's supposed to be a degree of rule. Someone can't defend themselves. There's no need to hurt them. These people can't defend themselves. Attacking innocence is the most heinous of all crimes. And children are the absolutely most innocent thing on the planet. And I'd like to think that I'm rational enough that not much would drive me to murder, but I know what would happen if someone hurt my children.
Should they be castrated?
I think they should face an extremely heinous punishment. Now, the death penalty is fantastic. I also think, from what I've just been through, and it was only 3 short months, I think a nice long life of solitary confinement would do just fine. I really, truly believe it. And I truly believe that we need to make that clear to the world. But the problem is, the world we're living in, the people who are in charge of the world have no obligation or no intention of stopping what's happening. They want to accelerate what's happening. That's what's scary. Because they could put punishments in place which genuinely stop this shit. And I don't think they are. In fact, they're promoting this shit and trying to say that you're born that way. Because when you're born that way, once again, you have no control. It's not your fault. It's not your fault you touched that kid, you were born that way. Not your fault you're fat, you were born that way. Not your fault you're a school shooter, you were born that way. This is why I have a problem with psychologists. Every single time you ask them anything, it's not your fault. It's something else's fault or someone else's fault, and I don't accept that. I accept absolute and utter ruthless personal accountability. Absolutely everything is my fault. Every action I undertake is completely my fault. If I do something wrong, it is my fault and I should be punished for it, me. And that should be implied on every single other man on the planet. And the second we start doing that, dumb shit might stop.
It's a powerful message. We're at the end of it, so if you got anything.
Well, this is going to be more of a lighthearted question to end on a lighter note. But
Are you going to ask about who's a better actor, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro? Actually, a real question.
That's your question.
So I got a question. Do you like both actors, Pacino or De Niro?
De Niro hates Trump, right?
Yeah.
They both do. They both do. They both do.
Oh, they both do?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
So now you got to go on their merit.
Uh-oh. I don't know then. They're both on the wrong team.
Scarface or Goodfellas?
Yeah.
So this is actually a funny question, lighthearted question, but it is about your legacy.
Sure.
I don't know if there's anybody in the world, when I say a country, oh, I'm going to this country, they say, well, you must be going to see Tate.
Yeah.
If I told my mom, we're not supposed to talk about this, hey, Mom, I'm going to Romania. Are you going to see Andrew Tate? Yeah. If I told that, hey, anybody, I'm going to Romania, they're going to say, oh, you're going to go see Tate.
Yeah.
That's how synonymous you are with Romania. The irony is that Romania is the country that's locked you up. There's one other person that's associated with the country. If I say the country, you'll know the name. They're not even a real person. And that person is from the country of Kazakhstan.
Yeah, Borat.
Borat.
Yeah.
I say Kazakhstan, you think of Borat.
Yeah.
Ironically, in a twist of fate, in 2006, when the movie Borat came out, they actually banned the movie.
Yeah.
They didn't want the people of Kazakhstan to see the movie.
Yeah.
Because it was
Insulting.
a great insult for the people of Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Ironically, in 2020, after COVID, it became a global brand, Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
The tourism board basically created ads and embraced the moniker Kazakhstan, very nice, as a way to drive tourism to Kazakhstan. So in a twist of fate, they banned the movie.
Yeah.
15 years later, they're embracing Borat.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, when you're innocent
Yeah.
and you're scot-free,
Yeah.
what will Romania do to make amends for what's happened to you? Will it be Romania? What color is your Bugatti? What are they gonna say?
That's a really good question because I love this country. I chose to live here. I think that they have done themselves a massive disservice, but I don't think it's Romanians as a whole. 99.9% of Romanians I interact with apologize to me. Every Romanian I see says sorry. Even the police officers who come and check my house arrest apologize to me. There's a select few Romanians who have done irreparable damage to this country, and they're going to have to deal with the consequences of that if they have a conscience at all. Most Romanians understand exactly what's happening and have apologized to me and are good people. I think I did a lot for this country in terms of tourism. I don't think it was mentioned much before me.
Yes.
And truthfully, it is a safe place and it is a beautiful place and you can carve a good life here. But I think they've certainly scared away a lot of high net worth individuals from ever moving here because they will seize all of their things and throw you in a jail cell. So we'll have to see how they try and recover from the mess they've made and if the few people who have done this, and it's a small group, are ever going to be held responsible. And if the country of Romania is mature enough, they will understand that it's a very small group of people who have made a very big mess.
Last question. What source of power do you get from this?
This is actually a mudra from power, a mudra for power. I think I'm not sure which yoga or Hindu or something it's from. It is a mudra from power, but my father used to sit and play chess like this. This is how he played chess. So I stole it. I stole it when I would be losing chess games in chess tournaments. When I was a kid, I was like, shit, I'm losing. I need power. Shit, let me do like dad. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But I just adopted it because it was his hand symbol, so I just copied it. And there's a lot of theories online that, it's occultist this and occultist that. I let the conspiracy theories run, but it's far more simple than that. There's lots of pictures of my dad doing it, and I copied it. That's all it is.
Respect.
So again, 5 hours felt like 5 minutes, just like last time. I can't tell you how many people last time said,
Glad you came, bro.
People wanted to watch every second of it.
Thank you.
This was great. And we got a couple of gifts we want to give you. The audience that's watching this, there's a couple things we want to do for you. We want the world to see this interview. And a lot of you guys will be part of history. 5 of these hats, Future Looks Bright, will be signed by Tate. And on Twitter, we will pick anybody that posts the interview there with hashtag Tate.
All right. That was the end of the interview. Shout out to Andrew Tate. I learned a lot from this interview. Big fan, big supporter. You guys make sure you get into the comment section. Tell me what you guys thought about all these parts of this series. Let me know what you guys want. Well, let me know what you guys want next. Like, I'm gonna listen to y'all. Yeah. Y'all take it easy. We good. We out.